All right, bunch of smiling faces we haven't seen in a couple weeks.
Yeah, what's going on, guys? Apologize for the last minute postponement last week, but we had a couple glitches, and so now we're back. How's everybody? Jim, how's the weather down there?
Good.
Weather is a little bit cool. It's 55 this morning, but it's like 72 now. Great golf weather.
Yeah.
Great golf weather. So
Yeah, you're not kidding. Yeah, Jim, I spent some time in Austin a couple weeks ago. Fine town.
yeah,
Austin.
very, very different than San Antonio. It's quite active, right?
It is. It's got
Yeah.
a little bit of everything, which is
Yeah.
kind of neat.
Yeah.
We did quite a bit of walking downtown.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good.
Until we found our spot.
Good.
And spots is kind of plural there. There's a lot of good things to offer in Austin. No golf, which no big deal there. It was still a ton of fun. Lots of music, lots of people.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, there was a football game. It was, again, I signed up to be a brand ambassador for Austin.
Okay.
I'm getting commissions for every dime you spend there.
Yeah,
Keep
okay.
it weird. Keep it
That's
weird.
great. Yeah. Well, I have a youngest brother flying in from Chicago next week, and we're going to play a couple days of golf, and then he's going back. But I'm going to take him out to Utopia, Texas, where
Sounds
you know,
great.
7 days in Utopia.
Utopia, that's
Yeah.
where it was filmed. It's we're going to play the actual course.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So
Very cool.
yeah.
Are you
Also-
gonna use the side saddle putter?
No, I don't think so. But
No.
How's your forge going, Jim?
my forge has started and stopped.
Ah,
Unfortunately.
Boo!
Yeah. Boo. Boo. Yeah. Oh yeah. I got a couple days into it and I blew it, and then I started up again, and I said, okay, I got to recalibrate. So
That's right. You reset your brain.
yep.
I've
It's
had
well
some.
worth it. It's well worth it, Jim.
Oh, I
I
know.
can
that.
assure you.
Yeah. Well, having done it once, I mean, it was. I'd say the third or fourth week is where I felt the euphoria of keep doing it, and not only mentally but physically, it was great.
I've been doing my own little forge with adding exercises to the EFDs and
Okay.
paying dividends. I played in the rain today. It was hard work.
Yes.
And, I felt really athletic and it was really good. And I won the whole competition, cut my
Wonderful.
handicap, and I was
Not bad.
really, so, it's
Yeah.
like the 15th club in the bag.
Yeah.
Really
Yeah.
is. It's
really
just
is.
the mind and also you feel, I mean, my lower body is so much stronger nowadays. So I
Yeah.
got a really good base.
Right.
And just to have that turn, because I use a lot of sort of this, the upper body and lower body rotations, I can really start feeling it now because I do it every day regularly. So yeah, it's good.
Well, one of the things I've been trying to do is we have the first tee time at our club is 7:32, and sometimes I'll catch that and join a group there. And so we're in the dark at the practice range, and I'm doing my EFDs, and one guy says, "What is that?" Let me tell you about 18 strong. Well, you don't need to do that this early. I said, "Oh yeah, you do to get your muscles going. You got to lubricate, get water."
That's right.
So
Especially that early.
yeah. So
Yeah,
I'll play
Marina, let me ask you this. So regarding the forge and golf, obviously the EFDs and getting moving are a big piece of, helping you on the golf game. But I've been having some conversations with some different folks just about, kind of the mental side of things and the forge and this other challenge that I'm doing, 75 hard. What would you say are some of the impacts that the forge has had, more so not so much from the physical and getting your body moving better, but what carryovers, if any, have you seen from doing the forge, completing the forge into the golf game?
I would say the habits. So growing those everyday good habits, because the forge taught me to, to do certain things. and that carries on into my golf. So I got my resistant band on the range, and I wouldn't have had it before, and just doing the exercises before I go, it carries on. So it's the 1 minute cold shower, it's the water, it is the meditation. Like today I was really calm and relaxed, yet athletic. Had I not been calm and relaxed, I mean, I listen to my meditation in the morning. I do my so-called neuro diet, and I listen to some nice music on the way, and that's my habit now. And it's the habit growing that I thought was the greatest benefit from apart from the physical, the fat loss, the muscles, and what have you. It's the habits, Jeff, really is.
That's awesome, because Ryan and I talk about the habit piece of all of this so often, outside of the exercises, and really so much of it boils down to the daily choices that we make. And I was having a conversation with one of my clients yesterday. This was Rich, Ryan, and Rich is an interesting guy. He's a very successful CEO of a company, one of the greatest guys you'll ever meet, but not the most dedicated when it comes to the fitness piece. But we always seem to have really great conversations about, it might be about his business, might be about our business, just, different conversations about, the way we think about different problems and solving them. And we were talking about the Forge and 75 Hard. And he was just saying that, I just don't have it's like, maybe I don't have the willpower, maybe I don't have the desire, maybe it's just not something that I care that much about to do something this, as he put it, extreme. He didn't mean an extreme like crazy extreme, but
Right.
as far as like he was saying, there's so many things that I do during my day that require a high level of decision making or putting out fires or whatever. And so I think it was more talking probably about being able to relax and chill out in the evening, diet wise, have a drink, maybe those types of relaxation. And he's like, I feel like by the end of the day, I'm just so worn out with the decision making, my family, I have all these different things that by the time I get home, it's not something I want to put that much energy into. And I said, I totally understand that. And you have to be in the right mindset to do this, for sure, to do something like this. But and I would like to hear from several of you that have either done this or something else. What would you say to somebody like that of why you chose what made you make the decision to choose to do something this quote unquote extreme? And what pushes you when you do have a day like that, when you get to the end of that day and you're like, oh, I just want to chill out and I would love to have a drink. I'd love to have this food or whatever. But what is it that then makes you say, nope, not going to do it because I made this decision? And Maureen, I'll start with you if you don't mind.
I think it is accountability. One, I mean, these calls are very encouraging, and I feel as if I'm a 18 strong member, I have some sort of accountability, and I have said to myself, I'm doing something, then I want to do that, and I feel really disappointed if I don't do it. And I think even when the other day I had a headache and I was really tired, and I thought, no, I'm going to do my mobility. I mean, EFDs is one thing, but then also the mobility program. I'm going to do it. And the feeling of doing it doesn't take that long, the mobility. It doesn't. and the feeling is just great afterwards. And it's just the feeling of being pleased with yourself that I've done it. And then you feel good. And it is planning. It is planning. So if you have a tight schedule, you don't need to do that much, I think, in order to feel better. And once you're done, let's say 2 minutes or something, next day you do 3 minutes or something. It's like my planks in the morning. I feel really good doing the planks now, and I won't have a day without my planks, just because I've added it. And it takes 4 times 15 seconds at the moment, really hard planks. It takes 1 minute. Or the split squats. well, it takes, you know, maybe 3 minutes to do them with a few weights. So it's planning and dedication, and it makes you feel good when you do it.
Awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, it's like what motivates you is the feeling that you get from it. It's kind of what I'm hearing. Like for myself, it's I have a goal in mind. That's why I do it. And my goal is typically to lose some weight. And that's where like I love crossing stuff off the list, like crossing your
Yeah.
day off. Like Jim and we've talked about that a bunch of times. God, it feels so good to cross that off there. But yeah, I mean, I'm with Marina as far as that goes. But yeah, if I have a goal and I know like, oh, I can't eat after 8 o'clock, like, oh, thank God I'm doing this. Otherwise I probably would have grabbed that, whatever. It really does keep you accountable and on the right path, because you don't want to break that streak.
That's an interesting way you phrase that, Ryan, because I agree with you where you said, oh, thank God I have a goal, because I know I can't do that. So that's kind of how I feel when I'm on one of these strict schemes, is like, no, I know that I just can't do it, because if I had a little leeway, I'd probably give myself that leeway and take that, you know, whether that be whatever the cheat is in the moment.
Right.
But yeah, there's many times where it's like, if it's an all or none, and I said that it's going to be none, then okay, then there's not even the decision to be made. The decision's already been made. So, how about you, Jim?
My motivation comes from a different aspect that of doing this and getting involved with 18 Strong, is that 2.5 years ago, just during normal annual physicals, you know, they discovered, you know, some more high blood pressure and so forth, and did further testing. And a little over a year ago, I had what was called a TAVR procedure, which is when they replace your aortic valve.
Oh boy.
Mhm.
And they do that either through open heart surgery. In my case, they go through the femur and they drop it in. But I remember sitting with the physician who told me that this is something that is kind of hereditary, or it could be, and which turned out to be the case. My mother had the same thing. Is that it wasn't because of lifestyle, you know, of too much Midwestern high fat meals. It was just a circumstance. And then they just simply said, you have to have this done, and you can't wait too long, because in 2 years, you probably will die. And so a year later, they watched this and they went in and they did the procedure. And then a year later, I went back for a follow up, and everything's fine. But I think that changes your mindset. And I think those type of things happen where you look at your life, or what you could do what you're doing when you're 45 versus 55, 65 or older, and you get a different perception of it. So, you know, I'm probably one of your older members, more senior, you know, to do
Seasoned. Right.
season. That's a good
Right.
way. Season. Yeah. So I think that's real exciting from that standpoint. And then what Marina was talking about is the habits, and you make it achievable with the 40 days. And then also the fact that, I think, Ryan, you designed that form where you check off the activities, and it's such a excitement of doing that, and then checking that form throughout the day to make sure you don't miss something. And you know, I remember missing the golf swings and realizing, oh, it's 11 o'clock at night and I'm out in our backyard, you know, in the dark, swinging golf club, and I'm sure my neighbors are wondering, what's this guy doing at that hour? So I mean, that's exciting. And then you don't, and then as you go further along, you see the end coming at day 25, and you say, I'm not going to quit, you know, no matter what. And then you get your friends start teasing you. You sure you don't want a glass of wine tonight? No, you know.
Right.
And so you just do that. And it's helped me with my securities training study. Now I got it down where I got this morning, I did an hour walk, and I'm listening to one of my chapters on my iPhone and I have my notebook with me, watching the slides at the same time. So I'm, accomplishing two things at the same time. You know,
Yeah,
so that's kind of my behind the scenes, and then you got family and people that in your life that you want to influence. So you try to maximize the time. And what's interesting is the physicians told me that there's a warranty on this device of probably 8 to 10 years. And then they can drop in another one inside that one if things go on, and it's all stainless steel with bovine. So sometimes I move a little bit slow. But,
oh boy.
but it's the actual device, they had it floating in 100% vodka. So I asked him, I said, should I have a vodka tonic every night to keep it lubricated? He said, no.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I guess staying alive is a pretty good motivator. Although, we've had, I can't tell you how many guys that, like our uncles especially, they've spent a lot of time in bars with guys who also spent a lot of time in bars.
Right.
And every year or two, such and such had a heart attack, massive. He barely made it. He's overweight, blah, blah, blah. Stayed alive for 6 months. The guy is off the sauce. He's in shape. A year later, I see the guy and he's doing the exact same thing. And that I see that story way more often than I see the opposite of that. So
that's the habits right there, right? That's the habit piece.
And a lot of it's, I think regional, depending on where I grew up in Chicago, where, we had taverns on every other block.
Yep. This is exactly.
And your dad would come home from work, but he'd stop at the local tavern, have a beer or two, and then come home, and I don't know if it's still going on up there, but
So we've got a cousin.
We know a couple of them. Yep.
Yeah.
And that I'm going to call it a trap.
Yeah.
Yeah. We call it so the bar in town used to be called the Hilltop. It's no longer there. Mm-hmm. And Jeff and I would always say, like, yeah, man, I don't want to be one of those Hilltop guys.
Yeah.
Now, in all fairness, we've spent our fair share of time in the Hilltop on weekends, but my gosh, these guys.
That's been a long time. And I live a stone's throw away from there.
Yeah. 2.5 blocks away.
Yeah.
Well, when I go to St. Louis on business, we go to Little Italy area?
The Hill.
The Hill.
Yeah.
Yep.
Fabulous food and.
Oh yeah, that's a dangerous place to.
Yeah.
That'd be a real dangerous place to live. Like the greatest food, and again,
everything's walkable. Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. Or golf carts now. People are too lazy to walk now. They all have golf carts down there.
No way.
Oh yeah. You can't. Hill? Oh yeah. I would say. What do you think, Ryan? 50% of people have a golf cart down there. Maybe not 25%.
Yeah, and it's for reference. What is the hill? It might be 10 square blocks, but you could walk from end to end. I don't even think it's 10 blocks.
I don't know.
It's not a lot.
But they use them. They kind of cruise around all over the place.
Interesting.
But
they're all over St. Louis, all the neighborhoods. Why would we walk?
And as Marina was talking about accountability, your first question when we opened up was, how's the Forge going? And I go, I'm off of it. I can all do it.
I got you there, Jim.
Get back into it, buddy.
Yeah, get back on it.
Yeah. So I think what you're doing as a company is quite unique. You're combining golf, exercise, and the lifestyle changes, and the motivational side of what you're doing with your podcast and the different people that you're bringing on. So I think you're going to have a great influence. It's better to see how you can replicate and expand that from a business standpoint. And I thought about your idea of the workout stations at every country club, for warm-ups, that you could drop one in and people could use that in some fashion. So, you guys got something really unique going on from a business standpoint. And I really encourage you to keep doing that.
Yeah, we appreciate that, because that's constantly a conversation that Ryan and I have of, first of all, how do we bring the message of what we try to do here at 18 Strong to more people? I think the Forge is something that we can really spread far and wide, that kind of gets to the deeper meaning of what we're trying to do here at 18 Strong. Obviously, working with, and I know that we haven't really even touched on what we're slated to talk about today. But, getting to golfers, and these are the conversations that we have all the time. Like, it's almost like we're trying to bring golfers in because of the golf piece, because of the golf and fitness piece, right? And we know that is, as we would say, maybe I think the lowest hanging fruit of something that is definitely going to get somebody better from where they are right now. The skill portion of golf is a lifelong pursuit, but and you can go in many different directions. Sometimes it's going to be right, sometimes it's going to be wrong. Sometimes you're going to do things that help. Sometimes you're going to do things that backtrack. We're never going to figure out the skill piece, but when you do the simple things that we're talking about from a lifestyle standpoint and from a fitness standpoint, those are, you can do those so specifically and so consistently that we know those are going to get you better. So it's going to improve you as physically as a person, physiologically as a person, mentally, hopefully as a person. All of those things are pluses for your golf game. So we like to say we try to bring people in with the golf, and then we kind of like slowly from the back door hit them with the health and fitness and lifestyle, and really try to change the way that they're viewing how they come into this whole golf and fitness and lifestyle piece. So that's good to hear, Jim, because I think you get what we're trying to do here at 18 Strong.
Right.
Yeah, we're almost tricking people into getting into shape through the golf channel. Not the golf channel, the TV thing, but like, hey, we can help you get better at golf. Oh, and all of a sudden you're addicted to the fitness
Habits.
piece of it and
Yeah,
habits.
right.
Right.
You're developing better habits.
Yeah, we're taking a piece from the page from the drug dealers. Yeah, just a little taste.
little
and then,
taste.
oh boy, this is great. And then, all right, now you're a full-blown addict, but in a good way.
Well,
So
another thing, one observation I've noticed in the last several years is golf is an excellent sport, especially for guys. When you get out, a lot of guys are running nonstop throughout the week, at your age level, and even older and younger, that they don't have a lot of good conversation with another guy. And they start opening up in 18 holes, what's going on in their life, and whether it be health or career or family issues, that you can sometimes give someone some guidance or share some experiences that you have in a positive way. And this Forge, for example, when I did that, I mean, there were two guys that were watching me all through that, of when I was going to break down and have a drink. We went out for dinner, and a week before I started, okay, let's get a bottle of wine, let's share it. And the following week, no, thank you, I'm having water. What? And then nothing was said the first week, but by the third week, what's going on? And then I just open, the door for that. And I don't just share with them. It's real simple, easy. It's helped a lot, and I lost weight, so I feel better. So, and I think I'm more productive. So
the production piece is huge when it comes to like when you stop boozing, when you feel so good every Saturday and Sunday morning. Like, what am I like? I'm not addicted to booze. I'm addicted to feeling good in the morning now.
Well, one of the things too is I think it was Ed Milet. Is that correct? Is that?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
He was talking about on one of those podcasts of changing your habits, and one thing I remember him saying is go to bed at the same time every night, at 10 o'clock, and get in the habit of doing that, and then move it back so that you get up earlier and you can start your day earlier. So,
yep.
And we live in a cul-de-sac where, at 6 o'clock now it's darkest, and there's two of us, another neighbor, and we do our wake up walk with a cup of coffee after I have my lemon water, of course.
Of course.
And then walk just the cul-de-sac, and we see each other in the dark, and that's great.
That's awesome.
Very cool.
I'm curious, anybody else that's on the call, if you have any input, chime in, let us know. Brandon, I know you've done the Forge, and I think Shepherd did as well last year. So,
oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think I kind of hopped in a little bit late, but it really got at what's your why? Like, why would you do something like that?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I think everyone's a little bit different in what their why is, and some people's butts are burning. They just want to improve and get better, and they're addicted to the process. And I think that's, kind of my why. I just like seeing those incremental improvements. And, this is a golf fitness podcast. So, those two things go, together. And I mean, I'm hitting the ball further than I ever have in my entire life, and I'm less pain than I had in my 20s. And it's just kind of those small things, had some injuries and stuff playing sports, and a lot of the stuff was repetitive overuse. And then all of a sudden I'm eating vitamin I, right, overprescribed. And, it's like, well, that's detrimental. This stuff's not working. There's got to be something better. What can I do? And, you started to do your own research, and you find things like the 18 Strong podcast. And the next thing you know, it's just, it's this little tiny, maybe you get 1% better every year, but over, 5-6 years, like, what does that look like for your handicap, your health? So there's just a little bit of that, kind of becomes fun. And, the next thing you know, it's like, oh, you're playing better golf, you feel better, you sleep better. So those are, certain things, but I agree with Ryan. It's great to have, something like a calendar you can check off. But I think the biggest thing is, like, we had that initial test group, that accountability, like on a weekly basis, was amazing, because I didn't know, some of the people in the group, and all of a sudden I was accountable, right? That I was going to do the things that I was going to do. That's still something I look for, because, I'll tell you, I got a planner and stuff, and I write things down, and then the next thing you know, I'm, not doing what I said I was going to do, but I'm probably doing more than I would had I not written it down. So it's kind of it's fun. I enjoy it.
Yeah,
Awesome.
that's cool. Yeah, like the results kind of sneak up on you. Like you're saying, just hey, a little bit here, a little bit there, and then like, oh my gosh, I'm, like you said, hitting the ball farther than you ever have.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of crazy. Like, I'm using a driver that's like 6 years old, and people are like, what? Like, why are you hitting it so far? Like, what's, and it's just like, it's doing the super speed. It's, the mobility work. You move better. You're probably gonna hit the golf ball better. It's kind of one of those things. So, knock on wood, injuries could sneak up on you, but stick to the process, and it starts to be fun.
Stick to the process.
That's right. Buying the
exactly.
process, not the result.
Can I just say something about 18 Strong? Why you are so unique? Because in this country, here in the UK, you got people who try to sell to you golf specific exercises and so forth. But it's completely different, because you guys, you are sort of more holistic. So we talk about nutrition, we talk about mental stuff, we talk about habits, and we talk about the golf fitness and the exercises. But it's a much better package, if you know what I mean. I mean, if you were in this country,
Right.
you would make a lot of money just to sell your business, because we haven't got anything. I mean, I'm pretty sure I look around a lot, I know a lot of people. Nobody really does what I do. And I think there's a huge market. I'm sure there is in America, of course, as well. But I mean, here, I'm quite unique in what I'm doing I can't think of anybody who would do what I'm doing, really.
Right.
They might do yoga or they might do golf, but they don't do golf exercises, and they have no idea about really the mental game. Whereas you are the package, aren't you? I mean, that's
We
why
like to think so.
unique.
We-
That's
we
why I love it.
try.
Well, I mean, that's part of what we've tried to do from the outset, is almost just be the resource for a lot of these different things. And that's where the podcast started, is trying to find other experts. And this is really where Ryan and I want to go moving forward, and with the podcast and everything, is really continuing to find the experts that can help us go a little bit deeper on some of these different things. We've had such a fortunate opportunity to meet people like Gary and Carl from the Lost Art of Golf, and so many other, coaches in the world, and different players. And so trying to do that and be kind of the resource of kind of the whole package, right? The mental side, the physical side. Obviously, and this is kind of what we're going to talk to today in the call is, like my background is a little bit more the physical therapy side, a little bit more the fixing the body piece. But we love the skill side of things. It's not our bread and butter to give instructions or anything like that. So finding experts that we can interview and bring on the show and bring into our community is really what we get excited about, is not so much it being like everything has to be us teaching you how to do it. It's like, no, we want to be the people that you come to and know that if we're recommending them, we trust them to be on the show, we're talking about them, like, yeah, those are some of the best people to learn from, and that we're going to continue to learn from them too. And so I appreciate that, Marina, because we really are trying to, bring all of these pieces together, even though we're not the expert in all of those different pieces.
Yeah, just we've said it for years. It'd be the Oprah of the golf and fitness world. Just bringing people who are way smarter than we are at XYZ.
Exactly.
Yeah. We must be doing something right then.
Something. Now we need to get more people in the community, more people in the crew.
Yeah, that's it. Cool.
All right.
I am trying my best. I'm trying my best to spread the word.
you guys are all awesome.
Yeah.
Anybody else have anything they want to chime in regarding maybe the Forge or anything we've talked about so far? We'd love to hear any other feedback.
Yeah, what keeps you going on the days where you don't want to go? That's the kicker. It's like when you first sign up for, or when you first buy the the P90X on TV at midnight on a Sunday night, like that whole week, oh my God, you're so motivated. And then so when your motivation goes down because it's fleeting, what is the thing that keeps you going to the gym or doing whatever you're doing? That's the key to the whole deal.
Yeah. So, when I was talking to Rich last night, one of the things that, and I've always given him shit for this because, we always just kind of joke about it. But, if we're talking about him being on a better nutrition stint, getting his nutrition dialed in a little bit more. And we'll talk about, chips, tortillas, like that kind of stuff. Like, hey, those are some simple things that you can kind of eliminate from your diet when you're trying to go a little cleaner, sticking more with the vegetables and good protein and get rid of some of the starchy carb stuff. And so he'll come in and say, oh yeah, I've been really good, doing really well on the eating, but we had tacos last night, and so I had had some tortilla chips, and I mean, it's just a tortilla, like no big deal. And I'm like, that right there is the piece though. Like in that moment, it's just one little thing, but it's also the fact that 2 days ago you said you weren't going to eat that stuff. And now it's like, it's no big deal. And those are the things that now 5 years later, we've been talking about it. How many tortillas have gone down his throat because it's just one little, and so I think that moving in that direction, or seeing the way that plays out, it's like just those small little things that you don't notice like day to day that incrementally over time will add up. It's like the little slips here, the little slips there. Oh, I'm just going to grab a handful of this, or I'm going to cheat on this, or I'm going to have a couple of drinks. The reverse happens when you're doing something like the Forge. And that's where on the 75 hard program that I'm doing now, that's one of the brilliant pieces of doing the progress picture every single day, because not only is that just a details thing that you have to remember, and it's all about focusing on, even the little details, but you start to see like, hey, from day to day, nothing really changes that much. Even, if you take a picture of yourself, or if you're watching the scale, like day to day, not a whole lot's going to change. But as the days go on, as the weeks go on, as the months go on, now I'm on day 46 today. It's like things are a lot different than they were day 1 and day 3 and day 5 and day 6. But you don't see that in those short periods of time, but when you're able to take that snapshot over a long period of time. So these habits work forward and reverse, right? Like, so it can be with the bad habits, those things are going to slowly catch up to you or they're going to slowly, I heard somebody call it the drift. You're slowly going to kind of drift to a spot in the middle of the ocean where you're like, holy crap, how did I get here? Like I was,
Right.
I mean, that's something that I think that, any guy that has a family and he's in his 30s, 40s, like all of a sudden, I mean, how many people do we know that are like, holy shit, how did I get this out of shape? How did I get this, where my body hurts every morning? I look like this. It's like you just slowly drifted, because day to day you don't see the changes, but then all of a sudden you look back and you can't see the beach where you got in the raft. And so having these habits to then move you in the proper direction, and that's why you can't have it all right away. You can't try to get too much too quick, because it just doesn't happen like that. And that's when you're gonna end up bailing. But you have to just trust, like Brandon said, you just got to trust the process, that I'm moving in the right direction. I'm doing the right things. And sometimes it's those little decisions like Rich was making in the wrong direction. Like those little things add up over time. And that's where I think doing something like the Forge makes such a big difference, because it automatically just forces you into a decision of, I'm just not going to do that. And I don't have any leeway, and I have no other choice but to trust the process. And then you see where you are 40 days later, and it's like, holy crap, some big things can happen in 40 days.
Yeah, and that's the struggle with 18 Strong, is everybody, like from a business point of view, it's everybody wants it now. So like, what's the quick win for everybody that we can hook them as good drug dealers that we are. So, and again,
I
that's
want 10 more yards. I want to lose 10 pounds. I want,
right. And we could be full of shit like every other, 8-minute abs and all that, but that doesn't help anybody. So yeah, I get it. It's where everybody goes wrong with the crash diets and the P90X of the world. I'm just going to pick on P90X today. You can't, it's over a year. Like you don't get, I guess you can get fat like on a cruise in a week, but you really typically get fat over years. Then you also can get in shape over a long period of time. That's the way you're supposed to do it.
Yeah.
But it's impossible to explain to somebody until they've actually done it themselves. And I was just the same, like, bullshit. Why would I want to take 6 months to lose 10 pounds when I can do it in 30 days? Just like Tony Horton told me.
That just reminded, when you said gain however much weight in a few days, reminded me of our buddy Chris Lydon.
Oh, on his
Hawaiian trip.
Ooh.
There was a kid that came into the gym. I say kid, he's in his mid-20s now, but he went to visit his brother down, I think at Alabama this past weekend. And he came in on Monday morning and he looked at me and I went, oh my God. And his coach, Patrick, said, yeah, Philip called me this morning to warn me what he looked like. He gained 13 pounds in 3 days.
What?
Going
What?
down. He went down to Alabama and he drank and ate so poorly. And so when I saw him, his face was like twice the size as normal. And he looked at me and he goes, yeah, I know.
Oh my God.
I've never seen that dramatic of a change in person. And then I saw him 2 days later and he had lost like it's all retaining water and
Right.
all the salt and everything he ate and all the booze. And I was like,
Holy
dude,
cow.
but I give the credit because he scheduled a 6 a.m. session with Patrick on Monday morning because he's like, I'm a piece of shit and I need to get back into it. So sidebar that was a funny.
I have to admit I have the same experience. I was 18 and I went to the US for 2.5 months, and I'd never been in the US before, and I stayed with some old relatives. Took the Greyhound from coast to coast on my own. Came back from Chicago down to LA and via Las Vegas. Met a lady on the bus. She took me back to her home. Spent a week with this family. They took me to the ball game and to Universal Studios, everything. Came back the southern way, past St. Louis. I actually stopped in St. Louis and saw this big arch in St. Louis, which is a Finnish architect who's done it.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, after 2 months, I came back and my I had been swimming competitively till that moment back home in Finland. My friend, who was a swimmer as well, came to meet me at the airport. I tell you what, I had been for 2.5 months enjoying American food, and she said, "Oh my God, you look like an English bulldog." I can't tell you how
What a
much I
good
had
friend.
put weight
Yeah.
on. But it was, I would never, I mean, that was such a good experience. I cannot tell you. But I mean, after that, that was it. I've never been putting on weight after that, but that was horrendous.
Oh my gosh, an English bulldog. That is phenomenal.
I know.
Yeah, that's mean, but I get it. I would
Yep.
have said way worse to some of my friends, and have. Nice. All right. Well, you want to tell us how you fix people, Bodini?
Yeah. So yeah, let's get into our call now. No, I mean, as we were having a conversation earlier this week, we were just talking about, you know, the concept of golf and fitness and how all this plays together, and kind of what I do on a daily basis when I am working with somebody in here, or really when somebody new comes in to see me, and how, you know, a light bulb will oftentimes go off in somebody's head when we go through different pieces of the evaluation and just, you know, look at certain things physically, and then are able to say like, hey, like, this is where we would like to see it. So let's take like hip rotation or trunk rotation. And I think it's always really fun when you bring in, could be a high school kid, or it could be, I have a new guy who is, you know, probably early 50s. And we're going through these different evaluation tests, looking at hip rotation, shoulder rotation, trunk rotation. And you start to see a couple patterns of like, hey, you don't move very well in this direction or this part of your body.
Right.
And then kind of equating that to like, because of this, that's likely going to affect the way that you swing a golf club, or the way you move, or the way that you even approach a certain exercise. And so I think it's just kind of important to kind of talk to the point that there are certain things that are important for us to think about when we approach any kind of a new program. And this, again, can go for dietary, fitness wise, sports performance. But you have to first kind of know where you are, right? And so kind of three points would be, you have to know where you are. You have to know what matters, like what are the important things. And then from there, now let's put together some sort of a plan where we can kind of attack it. And you have to, you know, kind of look at, in this plan, am I attacking it to try to fix this? Or is it even important that I fix it? Can I fix it? Or do we have to kind of work around those things? And, you know, so that's a little bit of what we do when we're looking at different golfers. So when I bring this guy in, I'm looking at his hip, and he can't rotate very well on the right hip. And so I'm sorry, it was his left hip. And so I'm like, well, do you know what that's going to do in your golf swing? Or do you know what kind of an impact that can have in your golf swing? And he's like, not, you know, he didn't really know. And so we were just talking about how, well, if you can't rotate on that front side, so he's a right-handed golfer, front side hip, you know, that's going to be harder for you to really turn and rotate through the ball. It's going to be harder for you to get up into that full finish position that most of us would like to see. And so we need to either start working on that, or work on maybe some adjustments in your setup. And, you know, it might change the way that you swing the club if we don't start working on it, or it might have an impact on why you're doing something that maybe you're trying to work on with your coach, you know, and like he's trying to work on a full finish with his coach. And I'm like, well, if you can't rotate on that hip, that's something we need to tackle if you want to get into that position. And so, you know, just kind of open these different conversations of what are some of the issues that people have, what are some of the things that you can do to fix it, and then, you know, what are the things that maybe we think matter but don't matter all that much. So that's kind of where we're starting.
So for the most part, when people walk in the front door of the gym and they know something's wrong, not necessarily if they know something's wrong, but is it because in your experience, is it more of a range of motion thing? Is it they're just weak and they can't get in positions? What is kind of typical for a guy who just walks in and doesn't really work out or do much?
Yeah, I mean, if you take I've got a couple golfers in mind, and let's just say they're kind of in the 40 to 50-year-old range. And everybody that comes into the gym itself, not talking about the many golfers that we hear from online or that are in our crew, but I think, everybody's going to have their own reason of why they're kind of embarking on this journey. We just heard a couple stories earlier of what brought people to 18 Strong, why they were interested in, looking into the fitness piece. Brandon's story is different than Jim's, and it's different than Marina's, and it's different than Shepard's. Everybody has their different reasons of why they come in. So some people will come into the gym and they come in because, hey, I've been having some pain. My buddy said that he thinks you can help me, alleviate this pain. So that person, I already kind of have a little bit in my head, that's where I kind of put a little bit of the physical therapist hat on as we're going through some of the evaluation pieces of, okay, I'm going to really look at how this person is moving, and not even just through their tests, but kind of look at just how they move around, doing different things, getting into positions, getting out of positions. I'm trying to kind of figure out where they might struggle there, because as some of the folks on the call will recognize that are in the medical field or fitness field, if a person's not moving well, many times, that's really going to be the underlying piece of whatever pain they're probably having.
Right.
Talking about back pain, which is such a consistent thing that golfers have. Oftentimes that's an issue of, the hips not moving very well, or the upper back and thoracic region not moving very well. And so I'll kind of have my senses around, like, all right, when we're watching some of those different movements, the hip rotation, the back, how they're moving with these different tests, I'm really going to pay attention to, are they moving well, or can that be an impact? Some people just come in just because they want to hit the ball further. And so for that person, same thing. I'm still going to be looking at their movement, because as Brandon said, the better mobility you have, the better you can move, the better you can swing a club. So I'm still looking at how they move, but then I'm also looking at, some of the more exercise related tests. I'm looking at how do they perform the split squat, and depending on the person, can they do a good push-up? Can they do a pull-up? Or can they do some of these strength related things too? But also during those motions, or during those different strength or exercise related tests, what does their motion look like there? Like if they're doing a split squat, can they actually get down into the full motion? If not, then I'm kind of looking at the hips and knees. So that person it might be more their mobility that's lacking, or it might be their mobility for the most part looks good, but they're just kind of weak with some of the exercises. And many times I'll get some of these high school kids in, and they can move through almost every test that I give them, but it's more of a strength and stability thing that we end up having to work on. So like if I brought like a kid like Murphy in, Ryan, he's probably going to have a couple things that maybe don't move as well as Murphy is Ryan's son, 12-year-old son.
Yep.
There might be a couple things that he's a little tight on, but for the most part, I would say he's going to be able to go through all of my mobility tests pretty well. But as I'm watching him go through the split squats and push-ups and things like that, it's probably going to be, there's going to be some signs that some strength is going to be the necessary factor that's going to help progress him at this level, right? And then what's great about the kids is that if you can get them started on that stuff early, where they don't have a lot of movement issues, and you can start to build, some of these body weight strength and stability, then that's just going to keep progressing as far as them getting stronger and stronger, but maintaining that motion. The hard part is when we've been drifting for years or decades, and we've been sitting at a desk, and we lose this range of motion, and our joints just are aging. We're losing this range of motion. We're losing this ability to move well. Then you have to start working on trying to reclaim some of that mobility and try to, almost turn back the clock a little bit as much as you can kind of fix a few things while trying to strengthen, or trying to fix those things before you can strengthen through full ranges of motion?
Yeah, there's a lot there's a lot going on there. So I can firsthand I can tell that this works because going back to Murphy, he and I walked in the gym one day because Murphy had a soccer injury, and I didn't really tell Bodie and Jeff. I didn't really tell Jeff what it was, and just by Murphy walking through the front door to the back of the gym, he could tell that there was something wrong with his right groin. Which I'm like, how in the world? You're like a wizard figuring that thing out. Because it's not like you're watching Murphy walk through the door every day. But yeah, it's I don't know how you do it, but yeah, it's pretty amazing you can diagnose that so quickly what's going on with guys and girls, of course. Sorry, Marina, I always go to the guy thing. I call girls guys too. But yeah, I think that it's fascinating when you and I talk where how like I could throw out an injury, rotator cuff injury, and how that typically affects a golf swing. Or, if you sprain like your left ankle and you're a right-handed golfer, what is that typically going to do? Which I think is crazy that you guys have figured all that out.
Yeah, I mean, and there's obviously different things that are going to happen with different areas. I would say that some of the bigger things that we find, and Elliot can probably speak to a lot of this too, because I believe he's a physical therapist or in the medical field, but some of the bigger things that we see are, even something that seems like it wouldn't be a big deal, like ankle range of motion. So many of us
Right.
have limited ankle range of motion. Our calves are like the gastroc and the soleus, the muscles that make up the calves. It can be really, really tight and not allow you to pull your toes up towards your shins as far as, would be ideal. Or when you're standing and you're getting into a squat position, you're keeping your heel on the ground, you can't get your knees to go forward, like in front of your toes. Doesn't seem like a big deal, but that's going to really impact, first of all, your exercises. As far as a golf swing is concerned, there's going to be some things that it impacts there. But for me, what's more important is if a person can't get a good range of motion, that's what we would call dorsiflexion. If they can't dorsiflex very well, they're not going to do a very good squat. They're not going to do a very good split squat. And for me, those are very critical exercises to help build lower body strength, to help build glute strength, to build your quads, to be able to put some, move through full ranges of motion so you can then strengthen the whole lower body properly. So that's one of the things that we see a lot. And so that's a situation where sometimes you're going to find somebody that their ankle is so stiff and tight, you're not going to fix it. And so you could be kind of banging your head against the wall trying to fix it. That's where in some of the exercises, and I do this a lot actually, is, if we're doing a squat, I'll raise their heel up a little bit because I know that then they don't have to try to force into that position, but it's going to allow them to get deeper into your squat. So that's something that all of you guys can test, is if you can stand on flat ground, even just put your arms out in front of you and try to squat all the way down. Can you get your butt down below your knees, or get your butt to your knees, your thighs parallel to the floor, and keep your chest somewhat upright? Most people will have to like bend way forward. And oftentimes it's either trunk strength that is limiting your ability to kind of hold yourself upright. But I would say more times than not, when I see it in the gym, it's because somebody's ankles aren't moving very well. And so then, that kind of becomes the question, well, do we try to fix that? Do we try to work with it? Do we just avoid it? Depending on the person, so like my client, Rich, his ankles are really, really, he had an injury a long time ago. So his one ankle is very, pretty much locked. So we're not going to fix it. But if I see a kid like Murphy, or I see like my son, Sam, he goes down into a squat and he goes into that forward flex position. That's something that I, kind of encourage him to work on a little bit to get that motion back. And that's going to then help make him better at doing the other exercises that are going to be crucial for his soccer, his mountain biking, playing golf, getting stronger in all capacities. Just like with another thing that we see with golfers is the thoracic spine. You know, we need the thoracic spine to be able to rotate really well. Well, in order to rotate, the thoracic spine also has to be able to extend. In order to get your arm up over your head, you need your thoracic spine to be able to extend. So if the thoracic spine doesn't extend very well, we need to start thinking about how are we going to work on that piece, because that's then going to impact the different things down the line and the other exercises that we're going to give you. I don't even know what the question was that I was answering.
Oh, I'm just going to let you roll. No,
But,
that was-
you know, those are all that's how we look at these different things. And so like one little piece, if it's not working well, moving well, can impact not just your golf swing. I think we pay too much attention to just what it does to the golf swing, when swinging the golf club is really, I mean, it's the performance side of what you're doing out on the course, but you know, the time spent swinging the golf club is very, very small.
right.
And so everything isn't about the golf swing. A lot of it is how is your body being affected when you're preparing to swing the golf club? And that impacts like, how are you performing your different exercises? Are you getting out of your exercises what your intent is, what you're trying to, or are you limited from some piece of your body, or you know, muscle or joint or whatever, that's not allowing you to prepare your body properly? I think that's a piece that has been kind of glossed over. Everything is about, how does this impact how I swing the club? How does this restriction impact the way that I swing or hit a golf ball? Well, it's like, well, that's a very small piece. Like, what if you're spending five days a week for an hour at a time in the gym, but one of those limitations in your body is impacting how you're spending those 5 hours, as opposed to, you know, the 60, 70, 80 swings of the golf club per week.
Yeah, you know what? I never thought about that, because we're all, especially around here, it's always how do we fix your golf swing, more or less, when we're talking
Yeah.
about like deficiencies, like, oh, my shoulder hurts, and I've never thought about that yet. So I can't do a military press, but I don't care. All I care is I want to swing better.
Yeah.
Interesting. I'm gonna write that down.
Yeah, please do. Which ankle exercises would you say are the most efficient? Gas pedal, ankle circles. So Marina's question here in the chat, which ankle exercises would you say are the most efficient? As far as if you're trying to improve that dorsiflexion range of motion that I was talking about, I do really like the gas pedal drill. I also like, because that one's going to specifically work on, first of all, and if you don't know the gas pedal drill, it's where first you're kind of holding yourself. Let's just pretend that my hand is my foot. This is the floor. And so this foot is on the ground. You're kind of like leaning this way, like bending your ankle forward. And then you're going to like push on the gas pedal and then pull the toes up. But the first part of that drill is to sit in that stretch for 2 minutes. And the sitting in that stretch is meant to help, first of all, just kind of relax the nervous system and allow the muscles, the tissue, the connective tissue to almost just kind of chill out a little bit and slowly just kind of start to relax. And that way you get a little bit of that lengthening process. Then the gas pedal piece is pushing down to now create some stress in that lengthened position. And then the pulling up is to actually create that muscular tension of you actively going into that motion of pulling your toes up towards your shin. I love that drill because it hits all of it. It hits the lengthening piece. It then hits the stress of trying to now build a little bit of muscular integrity in that new range of motion, and also creating an active activation, I guess is the word I'm looking for, an activation of the muscles that are actually really trying to create that motion. So it's not just like stretching. It's not like just going and sitting on the edge of a step and just holding it there. You're actually at the end of this trying to actively create some muscular tension. So if the intent is to improve your range of motion and improve your muscular control, I love that. As far as the ankle circles, those are good because those will help to keep your range of motion that you have and maybe improve your range of motion a little bit. It also is really good for just creating more circulation of, the blood flow down to the foot, waking up the muscles a little bit, getting the muscles to move, and sometimes getting muscles moving that you don't tend to use very much. It's not going to be as effective as the gas pedal in creating more range of motion. And then another one that I like, and if you guys have heard of the whole knees over toes guy, or Charles Poliquin, or some of these other strength coaches, they talk about anterior tibialis training. So the muscle right on the front of your shin. And basically, if this is my shin, doing exercise where you're pulling your toes up towards your shin with resisted weight bands. I've started doing that with some bands, even like laying down, almost doing like hip flexion, but where the band is hooked on their foot. So you're kind of pulling the toes up towards the shin during that exercise. That's going to build some strength in the front of the shins, which is kind of a forgotten about area as well. That's going to help facilitate some of that range of motion also. And then we also have to think about just going side to side. The side, like the inversion and eversion of the foot, because really as you rotate, think of your front foot as you're rotating through a golf shot. Your foot has to, your ankle has to rotate a little bit side to side. It's also got a little bit of that, what we would call pronation, supination piece to it. So all these different angles are things that are happening on that foot as you rotate into your backswing and as you rotate through your shot. So creating some more motion. So even doing I like just very simply, because they're kind of hard to train. The foot and ankle is not the easiest thing to train, but just getting a rubber band, like one of those, I used to just take like the TheraBands, the big fat ones that you would see in physical therapy, and tie it in a small loop around like a pole, and you could stick your foot in it. This was kind of classic ankle rehab. You stick your toe in it and you pull the band up towards your shin, and then you pull it sideways, and then you pull it sideways the other way. There's just different ways that you can kind of hit all the different directions using that band. I was just looking at Elliot. Elliot said you may also consider soft tissue work, gastroc and soleus. Yeah, for sure. If you have tightness in your gastroc and soleus, soft tissue work, having somebody like get their hands on that's going to definitely help out a lot. And then if you can do that in conjunction with kind of that gas pedal drill, I mean, that's kind of the best. The Theragun, the Hypervolt, those are useful tools, but nothing's going to work as far as soft tissue wise, like getting somebody's hands or getting a professional on that can do some of the hands-on, or some of the scraping, or some of those different techniques, or even doing it to yourself, really.
Yep. Cool. So then Shep had a question also while we wrap this thing up.
What about folks that have too much range of motion, inherently loose joints? That's where you have to, first of all, be really careful with specific exercises. We would call that hypermobility. And you're really going to work on building up strength and stability in different movements, positions. You're going to try to refrain from somebody putting themselves in kind of a risky position. Somebody with inherently loose joints. I always think of like hyperextension of the knee. So you want to just like be really aware of the kind of exercises you're doing, lower body wise, elbow wise, anybody, we've all seen somebody that can like hyperextend their elbow. So you never want to put them in those extended positions. But those are situations where we're not going to worry about any kind of stretching or range of motion exercise. We're going to worry more about building strength and integrity in those joints. Isometric exercises are really, really good for those, where you can put somebody kind of at almost those end ranges. And then, let's say I'm trying to help somebody that, hyperextends. So I might get them to a position here and figure out a way where I can have them now push against something and really work on creating as much tension as possible, where they're working on their tricep, but I'm never taking them into that hyperextension piece. And then also we could do the same with flexion. So you're working kind of all those elbow muscles, but you're never taking them into those extended positions. So isometric exercises are really, really good for people in those situations.
Thank you. I teed that one up for you so you could show the guns off.
Shepherds are mole. Yeah,
Yeah.
great question. Yeah,
Well, yeah, really, it's best shown with the pecs. So. All right, guys. I know we went over. I probably got a kid out in the gym waiting for me right now, but I know we kind of went off the rails a little bit at the beginning of the call, but I really appreciate all of your feedback on that stuff, and applaud all of you guys that have done the Forge, and recruit some folks for January for our Forge effort, because I think I would love to see us get up in the number of thousands of people doing the Forge in January.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. All right.
All right, guys.
Off the field hockey.
All right. Talk to
All
you
right.
soon.
Oh,
See you
see
guys.
you guys. Bye.